Hello, YouTube Whoopers! It's Sunday. It's Father's Day. At least it's Father's Day here in the U.S. I don't know how other people do around the world. Um, I just thought I would do an update. And a lot of people out there, they are not officially by blood or adoption fathers, but they take on that role, including women that have to take on the role of the father in the household. And it's important to have both roles available for children growing up. So many children grow up now without a father in the house or a mother in the house, and you can see it in the children, and it's very bizarre the way that things are going these days with the children that have been growing up over the last 10 years or so, or 15. It's just 15 years when you think about it. How the family structure has changed so much, so drastically much that you see it in the children now. And without getting too deeply into it and getting my channel banned, you're just going to have to fill in the blanks because I already have 2 strikes on my record on YouTube, and I don't need a third. So is it a it is a badge of honor to get a strike from YouTube. That's what it is. It's just an interesting thing. I used to voice my opinion on a radically charged radio station's website, and not only did they block me from their TV station, the local newspaper blocked me at the same time, which was rather fascinating. And then they still send me out letters asking for donations, which is just so comical. So, so at any rate, I mean, the family structure. I mean, I didn't have my own biological children because I couldn't have biological children. But I adopted 2 girls. We did foster care. One of them was from adoption. I mean, one of them was from foster care. And I had a stepson when I was married. And yeah, I mean, I've been there as a father and a mother to these children most of their life because even now their mother doesn't step up to the plate and act like a human being. She still acts like a spoiled child. So I hat goes off to every one of you out there that has to put on that man's hat and um, and do the right thing to raise up some children, or to do boys club or a girls club, or all these things that give them some kind of sense of understanding about who they are as a female child or a male child, and not blend the two together and end up with some kind of a crazy mix because maybe you wanted boys. I adopted 2 girls, which means that it's equal to 5 boys, maybe 6. So if you father children and they're not the boy or they're not the girl you wanted, it doesn't mean it's okay for you to physically change them and mentally change them to accommodate you. You know, it's outside of naming them a boy's name or a girl's name, and that's been kind of acceptable over the decades and millennium. But short of that, it doesn't mean that if you wanted a girl but you got a boy, you dress them up in girls' clothing, and you know, I mean, boys have a role in our society, and so does girls. Men have a role, and women have a role. And I'm not judging people who wish to choose their own sexuality. That's perfectly fine, but don't ram it down my throat everywhere I go. Do be as you wish to be, and I'll respect you as you are. Simple as that. People have accepted me. I'm actually have some uniqueness to myself. Um, for example, women are sex chromosome is XX and men are XY. I have an extra X. I was born that way. I've lived that way. I've coped that way. It has its issues and it has its advantages. And there are probably more advantages than there are issues. But it's what the plate I was given for me to figure out this world and have me walk through it. And it's really amazing of where I am today. This very moment is kind of amazing, just considering the adventure I had over the last 3 months. But that doesn't pertain to Father's Day. Well, it does in a way, but because I had two girls rooting for me and they were upset when I was not doing well. We went out. My older daughter took me out to dinner yesterday at a local restaurant, and we've been there twice, and the meal has been fabulous. Last week we were excited because it only cost us $60, and we had a great meal. This last night we kind of pushed the envelope, so it cost a lot more than $60. But their food was very good. We waited an hour. Last week got there at 5, and we got there at 6 in that hour. In that hour, it made all difference in how things went. But yeah. So the XY, XX, you can look that up yourself, and you can read a lot about it. When I first was diagnosed, it was not very much available, and information, a lot of information was skewed because the original testing audience that they used were prisoners. So they had that aggravated thing, but it has nothing to do with it. Most XXYs or XXXYs or XXYY or YYYYX or, we're very docile people. So there are a few things we have to know about for medical stuff, and you know, as long as you know them, then it's fine. A lot of people can go their entire life by not being diagnosed, their entire life, and nobody really noticed. They didn't complain about not having children. Would be the biggest thing, a reason for diagnosing it. These days, they check all that stuff, early on. Some people have it checked while the mother has a child in the womb, and sometimes they do it afterwards so that they kind of know what they're dealing with. So they get to find out when the child is growing up. But, it is what it is. So you can look that up, Klinefelter syndrome. And that was the original doctor that discovered it. It has other names, but and I can almost guarantee you, maybe 300%, that if you ask a doctor about it, they're not going to have a clue. They're only not going to have a clue. They're not going to tell you they don't have a clue. But if you already know about it, you can tell that they don't know what they're talking about, which is what I've had over the years, which has been kind of curious. It's a curious thing and it's a frustrating thing, all rolled up together. So it looks like everybody's off enjoying their Father's Day today, so nobody's on the line watching. But that's perfectly fine, because as you know, we all watch YouTube in we watch it in the end. So so 9 minutes is more than enough for me to talk about. Touched on a lot of sensitive stuff. I don't share my XXY. I don't wear a shirt on it saying I'm XXY, and you have to change yourself to accommodate me. And that's what I have to do. I don't have a flag with certain colors on it to say, yes, I'm an XXY, and you have to change to accommodate me. It's a town I go to dialysis, and they're a funky town. It's more, I think it's more like a city, but it's a little city, and a couple of towns you go through. When they had that day um, last week, or it was last week or the week before, the prize parade, which I'm very supportive about. But it's, what it was a simple declaration that we exist and we want to be treated equal. You remember the day? I'm 64 years old. I just had my birthday a couple weeks ago. 64. I've seen a lot over the years. And when I was young, women were fighting for equality. They were burning their bras, and that was the most exciting thing about it. They were burning their bras, but they were. Does anybody see a critter in the background? Good thing it's a big critter and not a little one. But that would be what they would be looking for. But anyway, way back when in the 60s, the women were burning their bras because they wanted equality. They wanted to be treated as equals in the workplace and in the home and everywhere you go. And they got it. And now they're upset because they're not treated special. They don't really like the equality thing. And they paved the way for the pride people to be treated equally. Now, granted, there are people that are still biased, and there always will be. But, you can either just move on or you can make a big stink about it. I would prefer to move on. That's been my attitude my entire life. I run into people that are just idiots and jerks. I don't give them the attention that they deserve. All right, this is going to be a longer video. So here's a story. I was in Malta, the island of Malta, not the town of Malta that's up in New York. It's we were down there on a metaphysical tour, and the tour guide, we said to him, would just bring us to piles of rocks because they were confused on what we were looking for. They wanted to bring us to all the historical sites, castles, and stuff like that. And so we ended up at this pile of rocks, and we were looking at the rocks, and we were looking to see if there was any kind of significance. Malta actually was before the pyramids. The structures on Malta are older than the pyramids, and the engineers that built structures on Malta took those designs and theories of building and brought them over to Egypt. So Egypt were the story keepers, and you have structures all over the planet that are. Some people think that there were actually landing sites for spaceships, but let's jump back to what the story was about. We went to a pile of rocks, and I don't know, there was maybe 7 of us in that group that time. And so we're looking at this pile of rocks, and this gentleman pulls up in a Jeep, an open Jeep, and he's got Confederate flags all over it. And he's obvious, and he pursued himself clearly that he was a white supremacist. And I think our tour guide at the time was a person of color. And we had a German on our tour, but she's naturalized into the United States, but she's clearly has the German accent, and some other people on it. And he was like, in people's faces because, he thinks the white race is supreme and that's the way it works, and A couple were bothered by it. They were kind of almost like at fighting terms. And to tell you the truth, I got up and walked over and got back in the truck in our transport. I'm not going to engage into that kind of silliness. I think back at it, I thought I was kind of a coward for walking away while the other ones were, ready to fight this person. But in all reality is, I got up and walked away because there wasn't any reason to give this person the energy they wanted. They wanted confrontation. That's what they wanted. It's like all these other terrorist groups all over the world, is that they just want the attention. They want to say, hey, we have a belief, and if you're not going to believe our belief, we're going to resort to violence. And, just walk away from them, that or put them in jail, which is kind of the better idea. Lock them all up. The 400 people they locked up for just being on the Capitol grounds on January 6th, they just locked them up. If their cell phone, your smartphone pinged to be as a GPS location on those grounds at that particular moment in time, you were automatically arrested. Automatically arrested in this fucking country. Sorry, my French. But that's just preposterous. People are still sitting in jail. It's been a year and a half, and they're still waiting to go to front of a judge. And it's disgusting what this country is turning into. It's absolutely disgusting. In a year and a half, this country is really, it's just disgusting what it's come. And hopefully, in 2024, things will change. We'll get rid of the idiots that are in that big White House, and we'll get back to something that people have a beloved for our country and the people and the world. So back to I say, just walk away. There's no reason. I mean, if you're somewhere and something's starting up and people are threatened and you decide to stand in and be a shield, a body shield to save a child or save another person, and that's your choice. And I commend you for that, and I would probably do it too. And I'm a big shield, so but in some aspects, you just have to walk away and don't give people that attention that they want. And they'll probably, just like when we're raising a child, back to fatherhood. Hey, how I brought this all back around, fatherhood and motherhood, or raising children, and they squawk and they want their way and they stamp their feet and they scream and they say, Daddy, I hate you. I'll hate you all my life. I wish you were dead. How many times have I heard that one? So many times. And they don't know what they're saying when they say, I wish you were dead. And, what horrible thing happens is that some accident happens and the parent does pass away, and then they think that they wished it and they carry that burden on their shoulders. And that's awful too. And the other parent has to be able to make the child believe that it had nothing to do with them. That's their responsibility to do that, so that child is not critically wounded emotionally down here in the solar plexus until they can heal that part. And jeepers, now we're gone to 19 minutes. Oh, there we go. I could just chat forever. Oh, fatherhood. It's been fun, and it never ends. It's always something you have to think of. But now my kids are grown, and it's up to them to survive on their own. I'm there for spiritual and moral support and spiritual guidance, which doesn't mean I quote scripture all the time, but I help them through some of their stuff, and they listen to me sometimes, and sometimes they listen to me. Or sometimes they listen to me when it comes up again. I said, remember when I suggested this, and you said, okay, Dad. That sounds like a good idea. And then not do it, and then now it's around again. It's like a wheel. Those old wheels they used to have in diners where they put the food orders on it. And I think it's called Ezekiel's Wheel. And, you put an item up on it and you work around it. And if you miss the item, it's back in your face again. And that's what happens in life. Stuff reappears back in your face when you're not looking. And but if you didn't deal with it, if you don't deal with it, it'll come back around in a different form, and then you'll have to figure it out and move on. And there's usually people around that can help you through it, and yada yada yada, yada 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 yada. So on off we go. Happy Father's Day. Have a good day. If you're not a father, I bet you are. A lot of fathers out there don't realize they're fathers, but they are. And particularly my audience. And until next time, we close. Cha 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 cha. Ya cha cha cha. Ya cha 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 cha. Cha 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 cha.